Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. To keep up to date with the community debate, go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Most importantly, though, if you would like to join this discussion right now, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next video. Shout out to Colin Turner for hitting the super chat, who may get discussed on this show. We shall see. Where were we? Up to sharing, I believe. So be sure to share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Colin and Sleeping Warrior. How are you doing? Can you hear me? Hello?
Sorry, yeah, I had on mute. I'm here.
Great.
I was going to give you a view just to kind of break up the show just a little bit. That I get your perspective a lot because I see this is what's going on with me right now.
Cool. Yeah, you can probably hear my munchkin getting ever louder by the day. I just called you Colin Paul. My bad. It was because Colin turned into a super chat, and on I think it was yesterday's show. He sent a super chat specifically to get my attention about a message that he was going to be sending to Anthony. I'm assuming he's content for us to talk about that message. On the other hand, I don't know if Anthony's content to talk about it. I haven't actually discussed it in the pre-show, so I don't know if you're there, Anthony.
I think you might have stepped away to get some coffee. You mentioned about some coffee.
Ah, perfect timing. Excellent. So the two people with screaming kids can take the mic. Wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things I was going to say, and I know this is back on the other side, or before we started the show, because I was thinking about that. I think the limit of science and the scientific method, I think, this the old adage, you don't know what you don't know, and there's things that you can't account for because you don't know they're there to account for them. I think that can throw off your figuring out of, the cause of an effect. Does that make any sense? But
well, it kind of does. You're putting a limitation on saying you don't know what you don't know, but ultimately speaking, yeah, that would fall outside of science then, because in science you're trying to establish the cause of a phenomena. So you observe a phenomena, step one. What's occurring. That's the first thing. So you see something happening and you try and figure out what's causing that to happen, and the presumed cause must be real. It must be something that you can vary and manipulate as a researcher. So to have a presumed cause that is something that you speculate may exist, well, how the hell are you going to vary and manipulate that? That's just nonsense. So obviously that falls outside of science. And that's not the fault of the inquiry method, of the scientific method. That's not that. You can't reify it and blame it. It's just a method.
Right. Well, right. I'm just saying, but to me, that shows the limits of science. It's like, because there's so many. The science can only deal with the material world. It can't deal with anything else. Like one thing I kind of, John may jump on here and get pissed off at me and call me an idiot or crayon muncher or whatever. But one of the things I disagreed with, that's why I don't think, and I don't want to create a discussion on this, is just to bring up a point. But I think like God falls outside of the scientific method because he's not part of the material world. Now you can infer that he might be the eventual cause of something, but that's still, there's a level of speculation involved. Like proving intelligence you can do, but that doesn't mean that intelligence is God. that could disprove that there's intelligence. Does that make, you know what I'm saying? So
I follow you along. This is at the moment the subject I'm most interested in. I've got absolutely no opinions on it, but I hear and listen to lots of people's opinions on it because it is truly fascinating. But these are like the ultimate questions, aren't they? Shout out to James Mason for the super chat. Let's just say a couple of hellos to our new guest. So, hey Spurs Chemo, can you hear us?
Yep.
Good to have you.
Hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. And also, Chris, how you doing?
Hey, Nathan, good.
And last but not least, Flat and Earth, how you doing?
Hello.
I knew I'd trigger him as soon as I'd say anything about the G word.
I'm sure he didn't come just for you, Paul, but maybe
I literally did. I heard the big God and I came in.
That's priceless.
But I mean, the point is the point I was trying to make simply is that I think there's limits to that, and there's Christian philosophers that agree with that you can't prove God with the scientific method. You can't, so it doesn't because it only deals with material. The scientific method only deals with the material world. God would exist outside of that, So I'll just leave it there. I don't want to credit. I don't want to go. I don't want to derail this conversation. I was trying to make a point.
Well, I mean, maybe Flat and Earth wants to debate that with you, and I'm more than willing for him to do so. But the only points, and I'm more than willing for him to do so. But the only got your feedback from your watch page, Anthony.
Sorry, my sound's passing through. Shout out to Roxanne. Shout out to Dolly Daydream.
But the only point I want to make is that, yes, all of what you have said is correct, Paul. It is a very narrow, very limited methodology of inquiry. So, yeah, that's nobody's fault. However, that method of inquiry does give you proof of things. It is empirical, and that's extremely useful if you can get people to understand at a very fundamental level that the scientific method proves things. Then you can ultimately invoke that word when you want to declare that you've proven something. So that's the bit that I want to be made clear. Invoking science has a couple of problems. One is that you can pick it apart based on its adherence to science and prove that it's not actually adhering to it. But ultimately speaking, that's why and what has been done in order to trick us into believing what men say. They invoke a method that is empirical. And in doing so, you understand, you, the person they're tricking, that they've proven something. They don't have to say much. They just have to use a couple of magic words. Maybe the word experiment, maybe the word science itself. And then at a fundamental level, you understand that something's been proven, even when it hasn't necessarily been proven at all. Hey, Chocolate. Anyway.
Good morning.
Good morning. I know Flat and Earth has probably got something to say on Paul's chat about God.
No, I definitely agree with him. I sent him a personal message. I don't know if he saw it. I said, I just wanted to say you did an excellent job talking to QE yesterday. I know you're more on his side than mine, but I'm loving your points. And I still stand by that. Great.
Did you send them through Skype, or how did you send them to us?
Hangouts.
Oh, and Hangouts? I'll go back and look. I might have missed it, so I'll go back and look.
That's great. I like what you're saying.
So I have a question for Earth Flattener. So Earth Flattener, you believe the Earth is flat, right?
I think we don't know what we're on.
Okay, so let's make the assumption that it's flat. That,
No.
or we can even say it's not round, right? It's not the way that NASA and everyone is telling us it is, etc.
Yes, we are currently being deceived.
How did that happen then?
How did that deception happen?
No, how was the Earth? How is the Earth flat or not round? How is it? Did it happen by chance?
I don't know.
I don't think anybody
that?
understands your
I'm just a
question, Chris.
person.
Does anybody understand Chris's question? Because I certainly don't.
Say it
Well,
again.
I think
Ask it again.
he's asking if it was intelligently designed, or how would it have started? Evolution.
That's right.
Would it have started from a singularity? Right?
Right.
I mean, if I had to speak from my own mind, I would say that everything has always been here. And the first law of thermodynamics states that matter cannot be created nor destroyed. So that kind of fits that bill. And it makes sense. Just if you, I've been looking into the biogeochemical cycles, which include all of the different chemicals and things that make everything up in life. So it makes sense that everything just keeps cycling over and over again. But I wouldn't stand by that. I don't know. We don't know.
The only counter I would have to that is, you're looking at and I've said this multiple times, and I don't know if anybody's caught it. You can't look at how the universe, I'll say universe because it could be anything. You can't look to see how it's functioning to see how it came to be. They're two different things. They're two different events. And the way the universe works as it stands, matter and energy can't, matter can't be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed. That's the way the universe works. When you step outside of what we see the universe or the way things are, you're stepping into metaphysics. You're trying to explain something that steps outside of what we see. And that's been my point all along. So, in my view, God transcends time and space, so he can impose certain laws and certain faculties into the existence of how the universe functions. But how it was created or how it came to be is a different question. It's like how I go to the mechanic to maintain my vehicle, but that's not how doesn't explain how the manufacturing plant put it together. Does that make sense? Or how it operates. How my car operates doesn't explain the manufacturing process.
Chris, are you a ball earther, or you on the fence, or?
I'm a flat earther. Sorry.
No, Chris.
Oh, Chris, sorry.
This is OU Chris from Discord.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, you're a flat earther, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with what Paul just said, and that was sort of my point is, if the Earth is flat, and let's just again, these are assumptions. I can understand that, but if it's flat and if we make the assumption there's a dome or some sort of firmament, then it was absolutely, in my opinion, created. There's no way around it was created. You could argue it was aliens or not necessarily God, but right, that goes back to that regression of, well, if it was aliens, then who created the aliens, right, etc. But that's just my opinion. If the Earth's flat with a dome, or even if it's just flat, even if we can prove there's no dome, the fact that it's flat is crazy enough, in my opinion, to point to some type of creation. Again, whether it be aliens or a god, I don't know. But I mean, Paul, to use an analogy that Paul was sort of tying onto that, I've heard good ones about like computers and computer programmers. Well, if I'm a computer programmer, the computer and the program is my playground, and I can pretty much do anything I want in that program. I mean, I can make my characters fly. I can make them giants. I can make it round. I can make it flat. I could do gravity. I could not do gravity. But I'm outside of that computer program, but I'm still the creator of that program. So the laws of the program don't apply to me. They apply to the things in that program. So it's quite possible that we are a computer programmer. Everyone's heard of simulation theory. It sounds crazy. It's quite plausible that's the case.
Okay, cool. I want to kind of talk about this scientific method. It's got the ball earthers absolutely in a twist. They seem to be absolutely raging at this particular point. If there was ever a time when you're trying to get someone into a corner or a gotcha, I think this is the gotcha.
It's not just ball earthers that are in a twist. It's fellow flat earthers too, mate.
Yeah. But what I want to clear up with Nathan and you, if you can, because we've got certain ball earthers, they're saying, oh, Nathan is saying that we cannot use man-made, anything that's man-made. We can't use man-made instruments.
No.
Like hold on, let me finish. I know this. I'm just saying this is what they're saying. They're saying, no, we can't use instruments. But as I understand, it's the instrument that contains the phenomena is what we can't use, so to speak. So we can use like telescopes or ruler, because they were saying, oh, so we can't use a ruler to measure a table.
No.
And I was no. I said, no, this is, I know. This is how ridiculous they've taken this scientific method. They're saying, oh, we can't know anything, we can't do it. But this is true at the same time. We can't really know anything unless we follow about the natural world, that is, the natural world, not anything about how big is what size am I, or how tall am I, but when it comes to the natural world, which is very important, the natural and physical world,
science answers these questions. So just kind of clear up, because they're trying to say that Nathan is saying that you can't use anything man-made, and I'm just like, he's not saying that. I'm sure he's not saying that, but I don't know. I don't think they're saying, oh, keep up to date. You haven't heard what he's saying, the latest. I'm like, I don't think, that's, I think it's common sense. If there's a phenomena in the man-made object, why would you research that with science? Right? Is that right? Is that right?
No.
So science is exclusively interested in the physical and natural world. Physical and natural is not man-made. So if you're going to point me in the direction of something that's a man-made device and claim it's a phenomena, well, I'm going to say no, that doesn't occur in the physical and natural world. Me personally, I'm very, very interested in the physical and natural world. That would be science. So I'm interested in that. When you show me a device and say the phenomena is this device, I say, well, where does that occur naturally in the physical world? If it doesn't, then I'm not interested. That doesn't mean to say that in order to explore or answer an cause and effect question, i.e. what causes the effect that I'm observing in the physical natural world, that might involve man-made devices in order to perform your experimentation. But you're not actually inquiring about the device that you're using, you're inquiring about the phenomena you're observing. That might require the use of equipment. Man-made devices.
Man-made equipment. So just to be clear, you are saying we can use, I mean, I knew this anyway, but there are certain ball earthers who are just like, oh, Nathan's saying we can't, it's crazy, we can't use the any man-made, equipment, and that's not the case.
Allow me to address that point.
I'll just reiterate it before you do, Anthony. The phenomena cannot be man-made. The phenomena, what you're studying, shouldn't be a device.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So to address the point specifically that Nathan's saying that you can't use, just put the words in my mouth again. What did he say? What are they claiming?
So they're like, oh, we can't know anything now. We can't, because Nathan, according to Nathan, we can't use man-made equipment or anything that's man-made, like a ruler or
right.
They were saying things like, so how are we supposed to measure a table if we can't use man-made?
So there's a difference between using a ruler to measure a table, or a thermometer to measure temperature, or a speedometer to measure speed, or a seismograph to measure movements in the earth, or any instrument. There is a difference between using an instrument to prove a cause of an effect. So using the instrument to measure the effect is fine, but that isn't the cause. The cause must be manipulated by the observer in a scientifically valid, in a scientifically compliant experiment. You have to manipulate it to prove it's the cause of what you believe you're seeing. So it's misrepresentation to claim that Nathan's saying that you can't use anything man-made. No, what Nathan's trying to say is, if you're going to measure something that isn't proving the cause, you have to manipulate it to prove the cause. And that's what ballers are not doing when they observe far out Andromeda galaxies and claiming by observational spectroscopy that this must be an old galaxy because it's blue, and this must be a new galaxy because it's red. And what we're saying is, well, it's not a cause and effect. It's simply an observation which you believe to be true, might well be true, but you've just got evidence that supports your interpretation, in the same way that seismology gets little needle readings on graphs, puts little lines all over it, that records something, but it's not proving what's caused it. It's simply acknowledging, recording, or documenting, whatever word you want to use, the thing that it's doing, right? But it's not proving what's caused it. So Nathan's not saying you can't use tape measures. He's saying that that's used to calculate or to measure the effect, the effect. But what's causing it is the bit that makes it scientific. You've got to demonstrate the cause of the effect, and then you can measure it using whatever you want. But that's not true to say that Nathan's saying you can't use anything. He isn't. He's saying you've got to demonstrate that it's the cause of the effect.
How you doing? Who's it that just joined? Jose, good to have you.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
So I have a question around. I mean, I get all of that, right? And I think a lot of us do, but I think there's still some confusion because, I have no idea how radios work or radio waves or any of that. Like, I know radio waves are, I guess it's light, but how in the hell did they discover that you could use light to send sound? Like, there's absolutely no observation. Yeah, but there's no observation.
It's technology, isn't it? There's a difference between technology and science. Technology deals with using the equipment, making new inventions, whatever. Science proves a cause and effect. So if a radio is the cause of something, then you could argue it might be science, but it's man-made. It needs to be natural. It's supposed to be something that happens in our natural world. But let's just say that radios, just for argument's sake, were natural. What is the radios the cause of? Well, we can hear something. Well, okay, so if you've not got the radio, you then can't hear it. So how are you going to prove it? You're going to turn the power on and say, look, the radio's doing, I can change the frequencies and all that. And that's manipulating your independent variable. But it's still technology. It's not actual science, is it? It can't be technology. It has to be science. It has to be natural. It has to be observed. It must actually exist. It's a phenomenon that you can actually experience. And it can't, technology is not science.
Can I just bring this back to the main point, which is to say that there's now two reasons why we're having a discussion about science, and it's not because we are actually making any sort of scientific inquiry into anything. Is that Adam? How you doing?
How you doing, mate? Yeah, it's me. I don't know why I've come in on that. That's the 24/7 channel.
Okay. It's all good to have you.
Hi, guys.
So there's now 2 points, 2 reasons that we're talking about science. The main reason, in my humble opinion, is because there are claims being made by the globe side that say science in them, or experiment in them, or use scientific vernacular. Well, when somebody does that, you can hold them to account on how valid that claim is based on its adherence to science. So if somebody says, or they claim, science says we have a vacuum in the sky, then you can say, really? So what's your hypothesis, your scientific prediction? If it's science, let's see the science. And when they don't have it, you can call them a fraud, or a charlatan, or a pseudoscientist, because that's basically what they are when they invoke the magic word of science. So that, in my opinion, is the main reason we're talking about it. Now, it's all well and good wanting to become scientists, in the sense that you want to go forth to examine why a phenomena is occurring. But is anybody discussing particular phenomena that we're trying to figure out the cause of here? Well, no, not really. But we've got questions that may fall outside of that methodology of inquiry. Hey, Arwin, good to have you. Hello.
I had to jump off just for a second, so I'm not sure how the conversation evolved. But I was just thinking about Anthony's example of something. The radio is measuring, in a sense, something occurring, which is music or news broadcast or something. It's measuring an effect. But just because you can tune it in and deal with it, that doesn't explain the radio waves that are transmitting it. Does that make sense? You understand? The cause would be the cause of the music, the news, all that stuff is something else. But just because you're seeing it on one end doesn't account for it on the other end. Am I making it? Can you hear me?
You are, and that's kind of on the tangent that I'm trying to now get us away from, which is to say,
oh, I'm sorry.
What's the point of us talking about science in the first instance? Is it because we are trying to find a methodology of establishing a cause and effect relationship? What phenomena are anybody on the panel trying to figure out at the moment? Is there a phenomena that we're seeing that needs explaining with science? Well, no. The reason we're talking about science is because there is potentially phenomena. Let's use an example: a light in the sky. So a potential phenomena. Darkness comes, a light appears in the sky. Phenomena. Wonderful, wonderful. So we've got a phenomena. Right. Are we trying to establish the cause of that phenomena? No. But people definitely assert what that light in the sky is, don't they? And not only that, when they do it, they say it's science. So that is why we're talking about this subject, because there's charlatans who claim they've established a cause and effect relationship when they state that they've gone through an empirical method, and they state it by using the magic word of science. So when people do this, on this panel or outside this panel, doesn't matter if it's globe heads who've been doing it for centuries, or flat earthers who've seen this as a useful magic word, it makes no difference either way. If you invoke that word, at a very deep-seated level, we all understand that something's being proven. Well, if that's true, and it has been proven, you can regurgitate the scientific prediction that went along with it to prove it, and how the methodology was performed, i.e. the experiments that showed the cause of the effect. So that's what you can hold people to if they claim science. And there's plenty of claims of science. Loads of people. You watch a bit of YouTube with any random channel, and they'll be doing I watch a lot of car videos, and they'll talk about the tyres and say, well, that's science at the end of their statement. And what they mean is, that means what I say is true about these tyres. They are more grippy because science says so. And people then, at a fundamental level, hear the word science and go, well, that's obviously proven. Well, no, he's just talking about tyres. Or talking about whatever the hell they're talking about, a light in the sky. And when that happens, you can say, how has that adhered to the empirical method that would give you the right to declare it's true, or proven, or empirical? And if they haven't got it, then you can say bullshit. That's it. That's the only reason we're talking about it. None of us have aspirations of science. I haven't got a phenomena that I want to inquire about. Has anybody on the panel got a phenomena that they're looking to figure out the cause of?
So let me just add something here for a little bit of context, right? It's difficult to understand the point that's being made when you have to apply it. When they explain it, it sounds straightforward, right? It sounds like you could understand it dead easy. Let's think about how many times in science it might be the case. Nathan, if you wouldn't mind screen sharing,
yeah, sure.
Perhaps people make a mistake and have to retract it based on it not actually being science. So, for example, I'm going to make two points here, two papers. This is a 2018 paper in Scientific American, and it says theoretical physics is pointless without experimental tests. So what that means is you can speculate and hypothesize as much as you want about a faraway observational galaxy, or you can speculate as much as you want about, I don't know, anything that's got
black holes, anything, yeah.
Lights in the sky. Lights in the sky. Lights in the sky.
Lights in the sky. Yeah, gravity, anything.
Expanding universe.
Yeah, but unless you can do experiment with it and test it, then it is pointless. Now you can just literally search that phrase and you'll find it dead easy. It's on Scientific American, and look at the point. Look at this. You don't need to read the article to know what this is going to tell you about, right? Because don't forget, anytime that relativity is mentioned, be it in the context of gravity, or it's all mathematical construct. Mathematical constructs is not science because it doesn't prove a cause and effect, even if the maths works out. So I don't care if 2 + 2 if 2 ice creams plus 2 ice creams equals 4. That doesn't prove that it's a cause of the thing that you claim that it's causing, right? Which is the problem with gravity.
What the ballers want to know, what they want to know is if Bob wasn't doing science, then what was it?
Right. This is where the second article comes into. Right. Look at this. What a massive database of retracted papers reveals about science publishing's death penalty, right? Nearly a decade ago, headlines highlighted a disturbing trend in science. The number of articles retracted by journals had increased tenfold from during the previous 10 years. Fraud had accounted for some 60% of the retractions. One offender, Josian Bolt had racked up almost 90 retractions after investigators concluded that he'd fabricated data and committed other ethical violations. Bolt had even been may have even harmed patients by encouraging the adoption of unproven surgical treatments. Science, it seemed, faced a mushrooming crisis. But this goes on to talk about more. There's more in this. But the point of it is
retractions.
The point of this is
Jesus.
There's a lot of retractions that are happening based on fake science, right? Which is the point that we're trying to point out. So whilst you can argue on the one hand, you're just causing trouble or you're being divisive, this is actually bang on point. This is the point. Science has been raped by pseudoscience, passing itself and manifesting itself as science. Now, what I want to do at this point is just get the definition up for pseudoscience. This is really important because this is really allows you to contrast the position. Pseudoscience is a collection of beliefs, which we can all relate to, or practices mistakenly regarded as being based on scientific method. Well, it's not just the belief of pseudoscience that you can challenge, it's the practice as well. Pseudoscience is a practice, not just a set of beliefs. So if you're going to practice something that you mistakenly believe to be based on the scientific method, then you better be sure that it is based on the scientific method. Because if it isn't, it's pseudoscience. And pseudoscience is the problem because science has been infiltrated by it. Nathan's point is bang on. Okay, you could argue that perhaps he didn't do it in the best of ways, and I that bit is moot.
Could I give you an analogy?
The main point that Nathan is bang on the money that they're using technology and calling it science, and it's not. It's technology. It isn't science.
Right. Fake news, fake science.
Go on, Adam. You've got the mic.
It seems to be a theme these days.
I'll just get you mentioned in the medical stuff there, and I might be able to give a bit of analogy of what's science and what's being what is pseudoscience. So I don't know let's take Prozac for example, a drug people might be familiar with, or Zoloft as some of the Americans. They both work in the same way. So this is what's called a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. And there is scientific studies about how this drug acts pharmacologically at the receptor synapse. So there is scientific data for cause and effect here. Now, when this drug is then, as you'll see in these studies, placed in and given to individuals, and we say it treats depression, that statement is not scientific. Taking the drug does not fix depression. Taking the drug has the scientific effects stated on the synapse. What we then have is pseudoscience, where the correlation of some people having positive effects and side effects is then purported to be science. It's not. It's a correlation between taking the drug and your symptomatic relief. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. It's establishing scientifically a cause and effect relationship, and thereafter making a declaration that it proves the ether. Correct?
Yeah. Prozac doesn't make you not depressed. Prozac has this scientific effect at the receptors, and in some people it can have positive effects on their mood, but the effect on the mood is nothing to do, you cannot claim that is a scientific thing, taking this drug, scientifically proven to get rid of your depression.
I can give a more simple...
What it does, it fights the symptom of it, but not the cause, not the process.
I don't want to get into that. What I'm trying to differentiate there, Arwin, is that there is science in that, and the science is the cause and effect of the drug on the receptor. What they will then go on to do is try to claim that the effects of these drugs on the symptoms and the varied effects in different is science. Isn't that's correlational and probability studies. And then when purported as said science, it isn't. That in medicine becomes pseudoscience in my book.
Arwin the Baller, it's your turn. Save the day, man. Come on.
Can I just try and simplify it? Sorry, one last, because I know that's relatively complicated. It's not, but relatively complicated for some people to digest, Adam. So I'll try and simplify it even one step further. So if you can have, say, for the sake of argument, diabetes and insulin, and you establish a cause and effect relationship through the scientific method, and you establish that if you lack insulin, you will slip into a coma and die. And the taking of insulin will regulate that system and keep you alive. However, after the fact, I come along and say, I have found a cure for coma. And if you take insulin, you will never experience a coma. And it's scientifically proven. Here's the science. Now, in type 2 diabetics, yeah, that might well be the case. But I certainly haven't come up with a cure for death, have I? But I can assert it with some level or semblance of scientific validity behind my assertion.
Yes. And it's a misrepresentation of the science, and it's an overstatement of what an over-application of what the science proves. The science proves that giving insulin prevents diabetic ketoacidosis, so and therefore leading to coma. So yes, it does prevent coma if the cause of the coma is due to a lack of insulin, which leads to diabetic ketoacidosis. That's the
la. I didn't hear any of that. I've got a lot of insulin to sell. If you want to cure coma, you need insulin. So scientifically valid. I say so. Science says so. You better buy me insulin if you don't want to fall into a coma.
Yeah. You pseudoscientist.
So Mike, I still have a question around all this. I mean, and I think it's a good discussion, right? And it's like some areas are clear and some still aren't, at least for me. But so the question I have then is, are we saying that if it's not a natural phenomenon, we can't ever explain the cause of something? So in other words, if I mean, I kind of hate to use these, but these are the sort of the top two that I can think of on the ball side. If you talk about Cavendish, or if you talk about
no, you're right, Chris. It's a sad day. I mean, it dawned on me just yesterday. Like, they're in a position now where
wow, Kimo, you caught him in half sentence. Wow.
No, I mean, like, I get what he's trying to say, and that's what it is. He's going to say, what? So we can't prove anything in the natural world with this method, and well, how can we if we can't manipulate variables? So I think, you know, it seems like depressing. Like, we can't find anything out.
What? Of course, you can prove stuff.
I was about to say, what the hell are you talking about? Scientific discovery has driven some of the. When people say this, it's like, oh well, what's the use of it then? What are you talking about?
All right, let's Spurs. Right, so we have ice at certain times of the year, right? Regardless of what the cause is, for some reason the ice seems to disappear after a few days. Wonder what might cause that. We can
Let's call it ice wall. Go ahead.
So perhaps we'll suggest that it might be something to do with, I don't know, maybe moonlight. So we make a hypothesis and say that we think that moonlight's causing the ice to melt. So we're going to do our tests. We're going to put out different layers of tests outside, different layers of ice outside, and we're going to see if we can manipulate the moonlight by magnifying glasses and stuff to focus the light so it's more powerful and whatever. And it doesn't do what we think it's going to do. And then, but as an alternative hypothesis, somebody suggested, well, it might be something to do with the sun. So perhaps it's something so that you do a bit more testing and realize that it is something to do with the sun. But the problem is you can't manipulate the sun. So whilst it does do it, and you can observe an effect, and you can measure the effect, because you can't manipulate it to prove that it's the cause of what you're doing. Yeah, you can manipulate it with magnifying glasses and stuff, and that would create a moot point about whether it's actually a valid independent variable or not. I argue it is. Other people might not. It might become contentious within the dispute because you've argued science when it might not actually be science. But ultimately, if you can show that there is a cause, temperature, and an effect, melting of ice, then you can claim, rightly or wrongly, you can claim it's a scientific experiment. But if we come up and say, well, how did you manipulate the sun? Then you've got to show that you manipulated the sun and it was the cause of the effect. If you can't show that you manipulated the sun, then we go, is it compliant with the scientific method or not?
I think they want to hear. What they want is like what Chris is trying to allude to. You know, he doesn't want to be a baller, but this is what it is. We can't prove anything in the natural world with, well, we don't have anything this far, I think.
Well, okay, check this out then.
Before you do, hold on, Anthony, hold on. So I didn't actually hear all of Chris's point. It got cut off halfway through. So, you know, I don't know if his point's been addressed or not. I know you say you understood it, but, you know, cut him off because you know where he's going doesn't mean anyone else does, Spurs. So I don't know if you can hear us, Chris. Can you make your point again?
Yeah, I mean, and, you know, I don't know how this is going to sound. But basically, like, if we talk about the supposed 15 degree per hour quote unquote rotation that the ring laser, the fiber optic gyro shows, basically what we're saying is, because that's not a natural phenomenon, it's man-made, we can't ever show or prove the cause of that supposed rotation. What they're saying is, well, if we are able to you know, point out all the variables, or isolate the variables, we potentially can show the cause. So I mean, that's sort of the question. Is that true or not true then, I guess?
No. If it's man-made, guess what the cause is?
That man made it?
Spot on.
It's doom and gloom for the ball earthers, Chris. When they realize this, that, you know, they're going to have to just focus on what they can actually test, not the natural world. We can't test the natural world. How can we?
Hey, listen, it's not just the ball earthers that need to realize this. It's flat earthers too. We need to be able to understand that there's a line in the sand between pseudoscience, what we'll now reference fake science, and real science, actual science. There is a difference. One of them's credible, the other one's fantasy make-believe storytelling. And if we can draw the line in the sand and point out where it becomes pseudoscience because it hasn't complied with the method, then that makes it not science. Now, that's not our problem if it's not science, but it definitely is the baller's problem.
Right. But this is why they say, we're going back to the dark ages. You flat earthers want to take us back 500 years.
No, we're exposing that science has been raped by fake science.
Guys, double rainbow. Check it out.
Jose, what's your opinion on this? Because you're a ball earther, and you're a ball earther on faith. And you say you're not a religious man. So why would you not follow this method? What's wrong with this method?
I'm not a religious man, and I don't believe in faith for this flat earth debate subject. I just say, at least in this one point of the 15 degree per hour rotation, that the Earth must be rotating because the gyroscope was on Earth. It wasn't free floating in the air. If it was free floating in the air, not attached to Earth, then flat Earth has a point. But as for right now, the Earth has to be rotating. Don't ask me for citations. Don't ask me for scientific evidence of this rotation of Earth, because I don't have any.
So if you say don't ask me, that's a religion. You're saying just believe me because I say so.
No. A test has been done and 15 degrees per hour movement has been detected.
Movement of what?
The gadget used, the technology used was on Earth. Therefore, the Earth is moving. And it's the cue, Nathan, for the fallacy call. Go ahead.
No worries. Hold on, Jose. What did Bob do? You said an experiment. So what did he do? Remember, you're not religious, Jose. So if you're not religious, you should be able to show and demonstrate with hands, this is what happened, this is what he does.
All right, let me turn on my camera and show you. This is all I got to show you what is done on camera. Go ahead.
So can I debunk the assertion so it's not left out there? Right. So in order to get this apparent drift of the gyroscope, you would assert that the gyroscope is presenting itself as a fixed frame, and the Earth rotates underneath, showing the 15 degrees that you're describing. So you've got a fixed frame and an Earth rotating underneath it, showing this apparent drift. So, two reference frames, the gyro and the Earth turning underneath. If that's the case, Jose, then you're going to have some amazing flight times, aren't you? With the Earth turning underneath that fixed frame of the gyro and underneath the planes. Oh, no, that doesn't happen, does it, Jose? The Earth does not rotate underneath the planes in the same way it's claimed to rotate underneath the fixed frame of the gyro. So if it's not rotating under the planes, how could you possibly assert that this gyro proves it is rotating underneath the planes? It makes no sense. It's a massive glaring contradiction. If it's proving a 15-degree rotation of the Earth turning underneath, then the Earth turns underneath anything in that reference frame, including planes, helicopters, or anything that you throw. Unfortunately, we don't see that, Jose. It never happens ever.
I want Jose to say no, Nathan. No, I'm waiting for him to say no, Nathan. This is not what happens.
Oh, that's okay. I don't need a concession. I'm stating it as an absolute fact, whether he concedes or not.
Come on, Jose.
He doesn't need to. He doesn't need to. It was a declaration. I don't need Jose's concession here. It wasn't in need of any concession. I'm stating an absolute fact. No concession required.
Jose will say later on. I'm not going to Nathan doesn't get it. Nathan doesn't understand. And I'm saying, say now, Jose. If you think Nathan is wrong, Nathan is right, why say it behind his back later on when you could say it right now? Right?
Yeah, I'm not going to concede shit. I just gave you my abstract approach, the way I see this test was performed, and whatever, I just gave you my point of view. Not necessarily all the ballers' point of view, but yeah, I say so.
So let me respond to that, because this is sort of where I've come to grips in my understanding of all this discussion is, Jose. So the point is, they did an observation, or they did a test. That test or observation was not an experiment. So in other words, even if the gyroscope did pick up 15-degree rotation, or it picked up something, let's say, the point is because it's not science, they still don't know the cause. The cause
I
could
agree
be
with that. Yeah.
in any number of, it could be like a dozen different things for the cause. It could
Of
be
what?
programmed into the damn thing, right? We just don't know, maybe. I mean, there's a lot of potential causes, and we may never know, and that's sort of the point.
Yeah, we do know. Shout out to Awaken Truth. Spurs, earlier on you said that the ballers were asking questions to the effect of, if it's not science, what is he doing?
Yeah.
Right.
So they want to know, what if it's not science? Like Zinda will say, if it's not science, well, what is he doing then? What's going on? And
So Anthony, are you there?
Yes.
Tell me what they're doing.
They're doing two things. One, fake science, technology.
No. Tell me what they're specifically doing. What are they actually physically doing? What is happening?
In regards to what? That Sagnac experiment?
is it an experiment? Is
Hold
it
on.
a test?
Spurs, hold on.
Hold
on. Right. What is actually being done? Forget about all the claims. Just tell me what hands are put on what, and what happens as a result.
So, are you on about the Sagnac experiment that
Yes.
they're citing?
Yes.
Right. You have a spinning disc with two directions of travel of light. The faster it spins, the change in interference pattern is created, and the cause of it is the speed that you control by making it happen. So the faster you spin it, the more of an interference pattern there is. The problem is, it's a piece of interesting tech.
Hold on. You did this last time when we did this morning. Just tell me what's being done. Don't give me any implications. So you spin up a wheel. Yeah.
Yeah, they're spinning a wheel.
So if I spin up a wheel with light rotating around in different directions on it, correct?
Correct.
Then what?
Well,
interference pattern.
Yeah, it gives you a measurable interference pattern.
Right. Do you want to try that one more time? So if what, then what?
If we speed up the rotation of the disc, it causes light to take a little bit longer if it's going against the spin than it does if it's going with the spin, and it creates an interference pattern.
Perfect. Did anybody on the panel not understand what caused what? That's fine if you don't. It's no problem. But just say, I don't understand the cause and effect being detailed.
Yeah, what's going on here? I haven't actually seen what he's actually done, so if you don't mind.
You don't understand?
No, explain it if you don't mind.
Right. We're dealing with, if it's science, cause and effect. Yeah? The effect is an interference pattern. Claimed effect, not a natural phenomena. But let's just ignore that. The effect is an interference pattern. Now, if we're doing science, we want to know what the cause of the effect is, do we not? Don't have to agree. Yes, we definitely are. So, what caused the claimed phenomena of interference?
Jose says Earth turn.
Anthony's just... Sorry, Anthony, did you at any stage, when you explained what was occurring, mention the word fucking Earth turn?
No, I said spinning platter at different rates.
I'll try that one more time. Hold on, Spurs, I'm trying to lead you by the hand. Come on, give me a break.
Sorry.
Right, Anthony, so do you want to say it a fourth time?
Sure. I spun the platter faster and faster, and I got a bigger interference pattern when I did it.
Right, so the effect, Spurs, is an interference pattern. What caused it?
Yeah, obviously the device itself, right?
I'm waiting till you just repeat back the words that have been said 4 times by Anthony, Spurs. Maybe I'll get him to say it a 5th time. No worries. Anthony, for the 5th time, please detail what actually occurred.
The faster I spun the disc, the more there was an interference pattern.
So what do you think? So Spurs, phenomena is interference pattern. What caused the interference pattern, Spurs?
Spinning it faster. Yeah.
We're done. We're done. That's it. We've got our cause. We've got our effect. Jobs are good 'un. It's all bollocks, but let's just take it as read, as people are trying to insist that we do. There's your cause, there's your effect. So what do we need to do beyond this? Nothing. Nothing at all. We could say a magic word, experiment, and then declare ether. But that hasn't been done in the quote-unquote experiment. Nothing has been detailed about ether. We've got spinning platter done by man on a machine made by man, and then we've got the effect of an interference pattern. There's your cause, man making a machine and turning it on, and there's your effect, an interference pattern. So nothing to do with Earth turn, nothing to do with ether, nothing to do with very much of anything, really, other than man making a machine to create an effect.
No, I've got it now. Now, when they ask me what if it's not science, so Jose, you can hear this too. If it's not science, all they're doing is spinning something to go faster and faster, which causes this interference. So we now know the cause, Jose.
Shout out to Bob from Globebusters for proving the ether by science. Boom.
Jose, that's very religious.
Yeah, no.
Come on, you said you weren't religious. That's faith, right? We've just told you why, the reasons.
It's actually trolling.
I have a but to that though. I mean, everything y'all have been talking about is true. The but though is they're going to come back and say we are not moving the platter. We put the fiber optic gyro on a stationary table, capture the interference pattern, and it shows 15 degrees.
That's nice.
Without anyone touching it. So they're going to argue, well, if we know that if we spin the platter, it causes interference, and if we leave the platter stationary and there's interference, that's how they're equating Earth motion, because no one's touching it at that point. So something has to be causing the interference pattern even when the platter is stationary.
And if it was scientifically valid, the cause would be established by you as the researcher varying and manipulating the presumed cause of that effect. That effect being something observed in a man-made device. But even if we give it them and say, okay, that's a naturally sounding phenomena, right? No.
I think the most important question is who in the panel can convert meters to kilometers? Because I heard, Nathan, you weren't able to do it once. You want to redeem yourself? Go ahead, convert meters to kilometers. Go.
Jose, why are you derailing the point?
Serious? That's ridiculous.
Why are you derailing the point, Jose? What are you doing?
Jose is in full troll mode today.
What's happened to you, Jose? I mean, this is like...
He's in full troll mode. He was on Arwen's trolling. He's here trolling. He's trolled today. Jose B.
I wasn't
whatever.
an hour trolling. I was called out on Arwen's show, and I went and I showed my face and I told him what was going down.
Why were you called out? Why were you called out?
It was no trolling. No trolling.
You kind of were.
You went on the panel and said you like trolling. Are you kidding?
Anyway, that's fascinating. So, are we all clear why a device made by man that's been then set in motion by man isn't a natural phenomena? Are we all clear on this or not?
Yeah, absolutely clear now. Because again, they were asking, I'm glad you did this, because they were asking if it's not science, what are they doing? So when Anthony's just told us what they were doing with hands, and yeah, so that's the cause. Jose, you can't deny this. When you talk about denying things, if the cause is man, you're going to say earth turn. That's faith, Jose. Big faith. You're very religious.
You've been told.
No, I'm just giving it to Bob. He did science to prove the ether.
Bob's not here. Why are you having a go at him? He's not even here. Bob is not a bad person. Bob's not done anything wrong. Bob is exactly the same as every last one of us, including you, Jose. You're 10 times worse.
See, the thing is, right, if you claim something to be an experiment, even if it wasn't your experiment originally, so in this case, Sagnac, if you're going to claim the Sagnac experiment gives you the Sagnac effect, then that's your claim that you're basically what's the word? Supporting. You're claiming that it's an experiment. But if we challenge the validity of the use of the word experiment and say, can you prove that it actually did comply with the scientific method and therefore is credible as being called an experiment, then that creates a discussion where the burden of proof lies with the person using the word experiment to prove that it did comply with scientific method. And the question that we ask is simple. What was the independent variable? What was the measured effect, the dependent variable? And if you can't answer that within a really short sentence, like literally, I switched the light switch on and the light came on. I switched the light switch off and the light went off. The cause was me turning the light switch on and off. If you can't do it like that, then there's something wrong. And on the Sagnac experiment, you can't do it like that. What happens to me when I get challenged on this is, have you done any research on the actual experiment itself? And I don't give a shit. I want to know what was varied and what was the measured effect. If you can't do that, it doesn't matter what your claim was for whether or not I did or did not know about the experiment particulars. Now, it really doesn't matter. It's purely methodical. It's a methodology. It's just like saying, I start my car by unlocking the central locking, put my key in the ignition and turn it on and it's out of gear. If I don't do that, my car will not start. Okay? If it doesn't follow that procedure, it's the same with the scientific method. If you do not identify your independent variable and prove that it was the cause of the effect that you observed and then measured, then it's not science.
If you're watching this on Nathan Oakley channel, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. But if you're watching on Nathan Oakley 1980 live right now, then unfortunately this is the part that I bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in, super chatting, and hopefully sharing this live debate. If you need something to keep you occupied, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the community forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe if you've not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!